Raw. AEW tonight was at the Palms in Las Vegas, the place where it all began 7 years ago. I was there for that first Double or Nothing. It all started in Las Vegas. So they were back tonight, and the message coming out of the show tonight was very simple. I haven't had the chance to say this in a while. Champs are chumps. We had a Champs are chumps night here on TV. In the first example of Champs are chumps, and actually I should say that we have 4 more matches now that we know of for this Grand Slam Australia show, which is taking place not this Saturday, but it's actually next Saturday. It's a special episode of Collision. It's on Valentine's Day. That was actually the other thing about tonight's show. They set up a whole bunch of new matches. But the first example of Champs are chumps comes with our main event tonight, which was MJF, the AEW World Champion, who was not defending his title, but he had an Eliminator match against Brody King. Now, when this match was set up on Dynamite last week, you remember me saying, because I'm not a big fan of all these Eliminator matches that we get every week on TV, but I said, at least in this case, it makes sense, right? There's a story going into it because MJF has been stalked and terrorized now for weeks by this man ever since the Bandito match. And as MJF said to Brody King, you need to beat someone credible. You need to beat someone elite if you want to get a shot at my world championship. And Brody King huddled with Tony Khan, and they decided, you know what? You're right. And who's more elite than the All Elite Wrestling World Champion? So that's how this match came about. And I can live with that. That's actually a fine way to explain us getting this Eliminator match tonight. What I was not anticipating is that they were going to have Brody King not only beat MJF, but beat MJF in, about 30 seconds, I believe it was. The world champion was squashed in the main event tonight. And Brody King has punched his ticket. Hopefully he's got his visa ready to go, his passport all ready to go. And he is going to be in Australia challenging for the world championship against MJF. Now, once they announced this match, it seemed pretty clear to me that they were setting up for a Grand Slam title match, which means that if you're doing an Eliminator here, Brody King has to win. And there's any number of different ways they could have gone with this as far as like a cheap finish, right? You could have had MJF, who's just out of desperation, gets himself disqualified, a low blow, a belt shot, a nut shot, something like that. And Brody King wins, and that's how he gets a title match. None of the ways, though, that you could do that are terribly exciting, right? I mean, this is the main event of your show. What a lame fucking way to end the show. So what Tony Khan decided to do here was to shock people and to give them an exciting, unpredictable finish. And that's the best compliment that I could pay what happened here, is it was certainly unpredictable. I don't think anybody was looking at this expecting MJF was going to be squashed in 30 seconds and pinned in the middle of the ring. And it's great to have unpredictability on the shows every now and again. I don't think anybody's going to complain about that. I will never be a fan, though, of beating your world champion in a manner like this. And I understand MJF is a heel. It's not like he's incapable of getting his heat back. In the big picture, it's not a big deal. It's just more as sort of a rule. Beating your world champion is one thing. Beating your world champion in this way, you've got to be very careful in how you do it. And the way they did it here was they had Hangman Page came out, so there was a distraction, so MJF has his out there because old Seabiscuit came out to the ring and he provided the distraction, which then led to him getting choked out and then beaten by Brody King. So he at least has an out when we see him on TV next week. But yeah, there's a reason why I'm not a fan of these Eliminator matches. And we actually had 2 of them on this show tonight where the champions got beaten. That was one example. The other example was with the women's tag team titles, because we had the Babes of Wrath losing to Megabad, the team of Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford, to set up a tag team championship match with those teams for Grand Slam as well. So he succeeded in setting up a bunch of new matches for next week, but doing 2 Eliminator matches and having the champions all lose here in that manner here on this show, that was certainly a choice. So that was the second example of champs or chumps here on this show. Now, to go back to the world title picture here for a second, Hangman Page basically got a bye to Australia. He was scheduled to and will meet the winner of Kenny Omega against Andrade, right? We knew that coming into this show. And Hangman wrestled on the show tonight, but it was all about Omega and Andrade, which is an interesting one, because if you remember how Andrade returned to the company a few months ago, he attacked Kenny Omega. There was no retribution for it because he had to immediately be pulled off the show because he was still technically under contract to WWE. And then they got everything sorted out. Andrade came back. There's been no mention of what happened back in October on the anniversary show. There was nothing. At least we were going to actually get some form of follow-up here, a loose end, right, that was never tied up. We were actually going to get a match here tonight between the two of them. And the winner of that match would wrestle Hangman in Australia. The winner of that would then go on to challenge MJF or whoever the champion is in Los Angeles in March at Revolution. It's almost like a little mini tournament, sort of. So we got that match tonight. We got the match, not the first ever match. They have wrestled once before. But we did get the Kenny Omega Andrade match. It was very good. It was the best thing on the entire show. And Hangman Page now has an opponent for Australia. Now, if you would have asked me before the show, who do I think is going to be wrestling Hangman on that show, I would have said Kenny Omega. I was surprised when I saw that Andrade has now gone back-to-back weeks beating former AEW World Champions en route to getting the match with Hangman in Australia. It will be Andrade, who is doing the best work that we have seen him as far as his work on American television in either of the two big promotions. Andrade right now is what I call is in final form. He is in final form right now. He looks, I mean, he's out there. Obviously, physically, he's in the best shape of his life. But he's out there, right? He's flirting with the ladies in the front row. He's having these great matches. He is in his final form right now. And he is actually one step closer now to potentially getting a world championship match in the main event of one of their biggest pay-per-views of the year. Now, do I think he is actually going to go to the main event of Revolution? I do not. But I'm happy to see him in the top mix. When they brought him back as a member of the Don Callis family, one of my fears was he's going to end up being number 4 or 5 at best in a faction of about 17. So how are we supposed to believe that this time around, this run for him is going to be any different than it was previously, right? They have to do something to really help him stand out and break out of the pack. I am under no illusions that this is going to last. This is going to be some sort of long-term thing where, you know, he's going to be a number 1 or 2 in that group for the foreseeable future. But for the time being, at least, he's firmly embedded in that top mix. And it's coming at a time where he's putting in his best work. So I don't know how long this is going to last, but I've been enjoying it. And he's been having some kick-ass matches here on TV. Why not one more? So we know we're going to get him and Hangman in Australia. Again, not this weekend, but the following weekend. We also learned that Jon Moxley, speaking of Callis family members, is going to be putting his Continental title on the line against Konosuke Takeshita. That is now official as well for Grand Slam Australia. And here I am just waiting for that rematch between Takeshita and Okada. We better be getting that at Revolution. We better be getting it. They're taking their time. They're really dragging this out. It was another wrestling heavy show tonight, which was actually, I have to say, it was actually welcome after we had 3 fucking matches on Raw Monday night. Coming off of a 4-match PLE, we had 3 matches on Monday Night Raw, none of which were particularly good. Tonight, I think we had 7 matches. So I was okay with getting an extra dose of wrestling since we didn't on Monday night. I just wish, again, there was more in the way of compelling story on this show. What they threaded throughout the show, story-wise, involved Darby Allin being kidnapped by the War Dogs and left for dead in the desert. And I was left sitting here wondering, am I watching AEW or am I watching WCW? Didn't end too well for WCW. Let's talk about this show. This is your AEW Dynamite review. It is Wednesday night, February 4th, 2026. I'm the Solomonster. Like and subscribe Super chats are open. If we get any new ones that pop up here on what I'm anticipating will be a quiet night after a very busy weekend, I will be reading your messages. So go ahead and get them on in now. And also, of course, we have to spin the wheel. We have some business to transact here before we get into all of this from Dynamite tonight. So we're going to spin the wheel, find out how many likes we need here tonight for our Be the Booker segment. Will we be doing a Be the Booker? 420. A very interesting number. 420. So that is the magic number. We are almost halfway there. I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on whether or not we hit the goal tonight. So you guys know what to do. Get to work. That's your homework assignment. 420 time, everybody. I'll tell you what I liked when this show opened. We had the old school Saturday night's main event style promos that we have seen them use on Collision. They did them on Dynamite tonight. They're those rapid fire promos. They opened with MJF cutting a promo on Brody King. We got a promo then from Brody King. We got one from Kenny Omega. We had one from Don Callis, who talked about all of the different Callis family matches that were on the show tonight. And Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron, Megan Bayne, Penelope Ford. Everyone had a chance to cut a little promo and talk and preview the matches on the show. I would not mind this becoming a more regular feature. Not saying they have to do it every week. I enjoy it. I hope they do it not just on Collision, but they do it on Dynamite. But they open with a trios match with the Death Riders, Jon Moxley, Pac, Daniel Garcia, against against Kairi. Did you see the video, by the way? I just laughed my ass off. They had these videos. Whoever came up with this idea deserves a raise. So during the Rumble on Saturday, they were shooting video in the back. Whenever people would be eliminated from the Rumble, they would come backstage and there was like a golf cart. They would get in the golf cart and they would be driven wherever, some other location in the back, I guess. So Asuka and Kairi are back there. And Asuka's in the golf cart. Kairi is either in the golf cart or trying to get in. And Asuka just boots her out of the golf cart and then tells the driver to go. And she forces Kairi to run behind. She jogs behind the golf cart as Asuka and the driver, they drive off. And I'm like, this woman she's perfect. Asuka is perfect. I don't know how anybody could hate this woman. I know she's a heel, but I don't know how anybody can hate this woman. I'm actually going to be very upset and very disappointed when they finally do the breakup between them. But that was fantastic. So Moxley and Takeshita. Anyway, it was the Callis family. Josh Alexander, Konosuke Takeshita, and El Clone was in action tonight. Moxley and Takeshita, they tagged in a few minutes into this. Got a big reaction. Started throwing bombs until Alexander and Clone attacked from behind. Pac got worked over during the commercial break. Coming back, he started swinging at anything that moved. Moxley and Takeshita, they tagged back in. They kept up some forearms. Each man traded exploders. Moxley stood tall. He sent Alexander outside, and he caught a diving Clone. El Clone got caught out of midair with a cutter. Didn't we see that at the Royal Rumble? I think we saw that with Javon Evans and Randy Orton, right? Was it Evans he caught flying in? He went for the OG cutter. I think that's what it was. And he got caught with an RKO. I believe they tried a spot like that when they wrestled in NXT. It didn't go very well. So I guess that was their chance to redo what they could not do the first time. But anyway, down goes El Clone. Garcia made a blind tag. Moxley leveled Takeshita with the King Kong lariat. Garcia then sank in the Dragon Tamer, while Moxley hit a curb stomp on Takeshita while he was in the hold. And for some reason, Garcia let go of the hold, tried for a cover. Alexander made the save. So the match broke down at this point. Clone took out Pac. And we had Moxley then coming out with the Tope Suicida, wiped him out. Garcia ran right into a Blue Thunder Bomb by Takeshita for a near fall. Takeshita went for a power drive knee. Didn't work. He got caught with a forearm, but he came back with a bastard driver Into the wheelbarrow released German, and then he hit the power drive knee, and Garcia kicked out, and Takeshita's like, fuck this, we're putting an end to this. And finally, he flattened him with a raging fire, and he got the win. We got some fun back and forth here. At different points of this match between Pac and El Clone, I thought they were working very well together. That was kind of fun to watch. But this was about giving Takeshita a win because they're prepping him for a title match, and they made it official. He is going to challenge Jon Moxley in Australia on the 14th for the Continental title. So now we know we have a date and we have a time and a location for that match. They did something else here. Again, it's a minor production thing, but I liked it. I feel like they've done this before and then they just got away from doing it. They put, at the end of this match, they put a timer, a graphic and a timer in the upper right-hand corner, letting us know that in 40 minutes at the top of the hour, we were going to get our match between Kenny Omega and Andrade. So letting you know, okay, here's exactly when you can tune in to see the big match. And I like that. It's a small thing, but again, something I would like to see them start incorporating into the shows more often. So Renee was backstage with Swerve Strickland and Prince Nana. Swerve didn't say a word. It was all Nana here. He cut the promo. But she asked, where is your focus now? Where does your focus shift to after the loss to Andrade last week? So Nana said, our focus is right where it's always been. Just because we lost one match doesn't mean that we're going anywhere. Said Swerve did not say a word, as I mentioned, throughout this entire promo. He just walked off when it was over. Not the last we would see of him on this show. We got a video package on Will Ospreay showing various highlights of his from AEW. Also mentioning the neck surgery, showing x-rays of the screws that are now surgically implanted in his neck. Excalibur said the surgery was a success. We still have no date, though, no time frame as far as when he'll be back. Take your time. As long as it takes. You don't want to mess around with the neck. I'm sure he's probably itching to get back in time for the Owen. He's going to be beside himself if he can't be back in time for that Wembley Stadium show. I'm sure he's doing everything in his power to make sure that he is back in time to be on that Wembley Stadium show. And I am sure that if Tony Khan has his way, Will Ospreay will win the Owen, and he will be in the main event challenging probably MJF for the World Championship in London in August. And all I'm saying is that's great as long as he's 100%. Like I see these updates on like Kota Ibushi on social media, and I know Ibushi's a madman. I mean, he's just out of his mind. But I see these periodic updates from him and like that horrendous injury that he sustained. But he's talking about like the doctors are saying this, but I'm going to be back in half the time. I'll be back for Mr. Tony Khan, and I'm like, yeah, it's great. It's great to have goals, but like, dude, don't rush back. Don't rush back. Heal up. The world continues on without you. When you're good and ready, we'll get you back. Feel the same way about Ospreay. He's too valuable for him to come back prematurely from an injury like that. So the fact that they didn't give any sort of timeline, I think, kind of indicates they don't know when he'll be back. But just because they had a video package here, some people might look into that and say, oh, he must be on his way back soon. No. They're just reminding you, don't forget about him. But it'll be a while yet before we see him back. We had Orange Cassidy and Timeless Tony Storm against Jordan Oasis and Brittany Brooks. This was, now earlier today, Cassidy and Storm asked Tony Khan to be a standby match. Because Tony Khan does these live streams on social media. He's always got that coffee cup. I wonder what is actually in the cup. Is it coffee? Is it water? Is it something else? I don't know. But he always has that cup in his hand. But he's doing his little pre-Dynamite live stream on X. Orange Cassidy wandered in. Tony Storm wandered in. And they wanted to be the standby match. And he said, well, if there's time, if certain matches, go under their time or whatever, we would love to have you on the show in a standby match here on Dynamite. So apparently time opened up not even half an hour into the show, we got a standby match as they continue to misuse and abuse the concept of the standby match. We got a standby match here. This was very quick. I'm not going to get into what happened here, although I could, and it would still only take me maybe 25 seconds. Cassidy popped Jordan Oasis with an orange punch, and he won it for his team. That's all you need to know about the match itself. After the match, though, Cassidy got on the mic, and he told Tony, he's like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I can do this. And he is making reference to the hair versus hair mixed tag team match that has been signed for Grand Slam, Orange Cassidy and Tony Storm against Wheeler Yuta, who just looks like a forest creature with that hair, and Marina Shafir. That match is official. But now he's having doubts. He says, I like my hair. And Tony takes the mic, and she wonders, what was I thinking coming up with that stipulation? She said that her hair is her livelihood, and without it, she'll look like a boiled egg or an angry penis. That's what she said. I don't know what an angry penis looks like. What exactly does an angry penis look like? I don't know. I'm generally a very happy guy. I don't know. Tony's outfit was great, says Winston. Yeah, she was wearing denim. She looked very good in the denim. So she said she looked at Luther, who is bald, and then she just crumbled down to her knees, and Luther placed her robe over her, but then she rose up and she reminded everyone who the hell they are. Two things in Australia will happen, or one of two things. Either Orange Cassidy is going to give Wheeler Yuta a comb over, or she will make Marina Shafir look like Mox, which is a scary thought. There's a Photoshop waiting to happen right there. Look, I read this as it's one or the other. It's not where if the baby faces win, both heels get their head shaved. I mean, maybe they do. My impression was that whoever gets the win, the person who takes the losing fall will get their head shaved. So I'm assuming it's only one person. If it is only one person, it's got to be Wheeler Yuta. God knows the guy needs a haircut. They'd be doing him a favor. So I think we get bald Yuta in Australia. Bald Marina, I mean, she can make it work, but I mean, I'm just trying to visualize that, and I'm having a tough time. I'm having a tough time here. Hopefully it's just bald Yuta, and then we can move on from this. Earlier today, now we get to the criminal portion of this show. Earlier today, Darby Allin, he was skateboarding to the arena. And he's in the lot. The production truck is there. Here he comes. He's skateboarding his way on in. But he gets cut off by a car who blocks his path. And out of the car come the War Dogs. So we had Gabe Kidd and we had Clark Connors. And I don't know what Gabe Kidd's contract status is right now. Clark Connors, I believe, has signed with AEW, or at least a dual contract, if not just outright. I think he's outright signed with AEW. But they cut him off, get out of the car, and they attack Darby. And Gabe Kidd gets him up on his shoulder, and he rams him head first into the production truck, which is right there, the production truck. He rams his head into the production truck. So then they crack him with a tire, and they toss him into the back of their car, into the trunk. They slam the trunk, they get back in the car, and they peel out of there. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, well, I do believe a felony was just committed on television. Even when they got back in the car, Clark Connors, he looked dead into the camera. I forgot what he said something, and then they drove off, acknowledging the crime that they just committed. And then they come back to the announcers in the arena, and they didn't seem too bothered by this. They didn't seem very concerned about what happened here. So I guess it's no big deal. I mean, look, it's Darby, so this is like it's another Wednesday for him, right? I'm sure this sort of thing happens to Darby Allin all the time. Probably even worse. But I just love how casual everybody is about what we just saw. It's like, okay, well, hey, one can't grieve forever. It's time to move on. And so we did. We had Hangman Adam Page one-on-one with Mark Davis of the Don Callis family. Now, last week on the show, there was a tag team title match. It was Davis and Doyle against FTR, who are the tag team champions, but have never felt less relevant and important to the show than they do right now. I can't say that they feel any less relevant than they did in WWE because things got pretty bad in WWE. If you remember the Usos and the shaving of the back, okay, believe me, it could always be far worse. But in AEW, it's weird to say that because they are the tag team champions, but they're ice cold right now. They have never felt less important than they do right now. They're like in this holding pattern until Cope and Christian come back, and it could be Revolution. Who the hell knows? Is anybody even going to remember the angle they shot with Beth Phoenix by the time these guys come back? Is anybody going to remember the issues between Christian Cage and Nick Wayne, who's still out? We haven't seen Nick Wayne. We haven't seen Mother Wayne. They're going to have to re-educate us all over again about what went down between everybody. But in that tag team title match last week, Jake Doyle, right, the former Jake something, unfortunately suffered a serious injury. And he tore his bicep, which fucking sucks because the guy just debuted and it was still early yet, but I was liking the whole dynamic between him and Davis. And I said, you know what? This is a solid addition here to the tag team division. And then he tears his bicep. So whether he's getting surgery or not, I don't know, but he's going to be gone for at least a few months. And so now Mark Davis is all by himself all over again. I'm sure in Davis's head, he's like, fuck, we finally had something good going for me and now it's over. But he had a match on the show tonight and he made the most of it. He came out, he wrestled Hangman. MJF on Twitter a couple days ago, he offered Callis and Davis $1,000 if he would go in there tonight and break Hangman's neck. $1,000. What are they paying these guys? That $1,000 is as good as he can do here. That's a little weird. We get matches routinely on these shows where Tony Khan is putting up $500,000 just to win a match on TV. No breaking of any necks or anything like. I think you could do a little bit better than $1,000 there. I mean, he's the world champion. I would think you could up the ante a little bit, but he offered him $1,000. Apparently, Davis was okay with this. So Davis, he crushed Hangman against the barricade outside. Came in with a charging uppercut, heading into a commercial break. Later on in the match, he tried that again, but this time there was nobody home. And not only did he crash into the barricade, but he went sailing over the barricade. Page then climbed into the crowd. He hit an Orihara moonsault off the railing. Before going back inside, he connected on a moonsault press. Davis escaped a Deadeye attempt with a released German, and he wanted a BT bomb, which Hangman escaped. Both men traded shots until Davis turned Hangman inside out with a lariat. And he hit a very violent, awful waffle for a near fall. Davis tried the lariat again. This time, though, Page met him, only for Davis to no-sell it. He did get his lariat. Davis tried to pull Page up into a pile driver. Page, though, countered into a Deadeye for a 2 count. Davis sidestepped the buckshot. Hangman tried to skin the cat, and Davis caught him, only to fall back over the top rope. Now they're on the ramp. They had a short ramp to the ring. Here's a small venue. Page, though, held on, dropped him on the ramp with a tombstone. Then back inside, Page finally connected with the buckshot lariat, and he picked up the win. After the match was over, Page got on the mic, and he addressed Kenny Omega. He said, Kenny, I hope to see you in Australia. So we know who he's rooting for in his match later in the show with Andrade. And then he tells MJF that if he wins that match in Australia, then at Revolution, he is going to stomp every future child out of MJF's little balls and take back the title that he never should have lost. This match, I think the match maybe it went around 10 or 12 minutes. It wasn't super long, but it probably still went longer than it had to. Just given Davis's standing in the Callis family, he's pretty well. I mean, outside of Rocky Romero, of course, who never wins anything. He's pretty well near the bottom. Hangman's the one going to Australia next weekend. So maybe it went a little on the long side. I actually liked it. So, I mean, I'll excuse it. They went out there. They had a good, hard-hitting match. Davis, you know what he reminds me of? He's that like JBL brawler type. He doesn't have a chance to cut promos, so he's not a JBL promo. But that's not really where the emphasis is in AEW, right? It's a different company. He's very good at going out there and just having these kind of stiff matches, throwing bombs and forearm shots and lariats, and he'll pull you up into a pile driver, and you know his shit looks good in the ring, and he's a great brawler. So they go out there and they had what I thought was actually a very enjoyable 10-minute hard-hitting wrestling match. And I think there's a role for him on the show. I don't expect Tony to do anything of any great significance with him, but it would be very easy for him to sort of, you know, bench him until Doyle is ready to come back. I think that would suck if he's not back for 6 months. Yeah, to not do anything with the guy, which would be very easy to do because you can imagine how many people Tony has under contract who we never get to see on these shows. And apparently he's got more coming in. I saw a report from Fightful earlier, especially on the women's side. There's a whole wave of additional talents that are going to be coming into AEW very soon. We keep hearing about talents coming in and coming in and coming in, and very few are going out. So that's going to limit the number of spots on these television shows. Mark Davis is not going to be a priority on his own for Tony Khan. But I do think there is a role for him on the show. And hopefully we, you know, get to see him have more matches like this because I enjoyed this. Now we got a video package on the Jet, Kevin Knight, who said that he knows what he's capable of and he's as good as he says he is. And we had footage of him pinning Okada and being the one to get the winning fall in their trios title win. Says he keeps hearing about how he's the future, but he says the Jet is here and now. It's a very talented guy. I don't know where if he'll be more of a Kyle Fletcher or if he'll be more of someone like, I hate to even make the comparison. Action Andrade, he got some shine there for a while until he didn't. I think Kevin Knight will do a little bit better than that. Where he'll fall in the pecking order, time will tell. He's super talented. They've given him a couple of big wins. He beat Darby Allin. He beat Okada. I think he has all the tools to, you know, get to at least the level where they were pushing Kyle Fletcher, and then they sort of pulled back on that. Now Fletcher's back, you know, potentially challenging for the TNT title. But, you know, good. You want to have video packages or profile packages on these guys. Don't let people forget, you know, that this guy coming out of the Continental Classic, he was pushed pretty hard. He had a great match with Swerve, right, a few weeks ago. He didn't win. Would have been great if he won, but he didn't win. But still, you got to make sure that if he's not wrestling on the show, he is featured in some way. It might not seem like a big deal, but having a segment like that, stuff like that is important to have on this show. After this, though, it was time for the main event of hour one. I guess it was the beginning of hour two. Kenny Omega, one-on-one with Andrade El Idolo, and the stakes were high because the winner of this match would go on to wrestle Hangman on the 14th in Australia. The winner of that match goes on to Los Angeles on March 15th to challenge MJF or whoever the champion may be for the AEW World title. So that's what was up for grabs here in this match. We saw, I think, about 4 female fans strategically placed in the front row yet again for one of Andrade's matches. They were front and center. They were fawning over him as he was making his entrance. He's quite the ladies' man, is Andrade. He's taking selfies with them. They're passing their phone numbers to him. He is a single man now, of course. He was a married man, and now he's not. So he can play the field. So Omega wanted a one-winged angel outside early in this match. Andrade countered into a snap suplex on the floor. Taking too much time back inside Omega, he fought back with a superplex for a 2 count. Callis is on commentary, and he says, Andrade is so gorgeous that he should be on a romance novel, the cover of a romance novel, riding a horse. And Excalibur and Tony Schiavone did not know what to make of this. I don't think I know what to make of this. So we're just going to move on. Andrade ducked a lariat into a flying forearm. He kipped up, signaled for the figure 4. Omega, though, got a cradle for 2. And Andrade hit 2 suplexes. He gator rolled outside, and he hit the 3rd Amigo on the floor. So then he briefly got distracted by the ladies in the front row before connecting on a springboard tornado dive out to the floor. Then he went over, and he was posing with the ladies, and he was taking selfies as they went to commercial. They come back from the break. Andrade tried his double spring moonsault. Omega, though, he was ready for it, and he got the boots up. Omega spiked Andrade with multiple snapdragons. He went for a 3rd one. Andrade escaped, only to be sent into the corner. That set him up perfectly for a V-trigger. Omega wanted an avalanche one-winged angel. Andrade, though, was able to reverse into a sunset bomb, had the wrist clutch into a DDT, and he spiked Omega for a 2 count. So both men are trading big boots and V-triggers, and Omega went for a home run shot, but he ran into the spinning back elbow from Andrade, landed flush. Aubrey Edwards goes over to check on Omega because he's selling it like, oh, he might have a broken nose, right? So she goes over to check on him. As this is going on, Don Callis gets up, and he's got the lime green screwdriver. There it is again. And he passes it to Andrade, unbeknownst to the referee. So he's getting ready to use the screwdriver. Swerve Strickland runs out on the ramp, and he takes the screwdriver away from Andrade. Now Aubrey Edwards rushes over to Swerve. She's distracted by him now. And in the commotion of everything that is going on here, this allows Andrade to deliver a low blow to Kenny Omega, and then he hits the DM. That's what he calls his finish now. He hits the DM, and he gets the win. Andrade has beaten Kenny Omega, which means that Andrade is going to wrestle Hangman Adam Page at Grand Slam Australia. After the match, Andrade, he's celebrating with the ladies. Swerve gets into the ring. Omega gets up in his face. They're bickering and they're shoving each other. Actually, Swerve shoved him twice, and then Omega responded. A bunch of officials rush out to separate them. They're actually successful in separating them, and that's how things came to an end. This was not their first match ever. This was their first match since Triple Mania. They had a match for the AAA Mega title, and that was back in 2021. Of course, you could tell that was a lifetime ago. Things were a little bit different these days with AAA. And the AAA Mega title. But they had a match back then that Omega won. Here, Andrade got his win back. And he's going to Australia. This was a good match. I don't know. I don't know why the outcome surprised me in the way that it did, but I was caught off guard when Andrade won. I really was. I was expecting a Hangman win here. I don't hate it. Or an Omega win here, but I don't hate it. I actually like it a lot. The main reason I like it is because, and I've talked about this before, I think the best time to do Kenny Omega in a World Championship main event on pay-per-view is Double or Nothing in May, or we have Dynasty in April. Dynasty in April is in Vancouver. So that would make sense too. You send the Canadian guy in Canada into the main event in his homeland, his home country, to challenge for the World Championship. So either April or May. That way you build it up a little bit more. You let Omega go out there and rack up a couple of other big wins before he gets MJF, as opposed to just throwing it out there at Revolution. It just felt too early to me. Well, now he's been bounced, so we don't got to worry about that no more. The only thing I'm wondering is I don't know that this is confirmed, but there are people, I saw people chattering about it on social media, that Omega might not be around during Revolution. He might be some sort of gaming expo or something in Japan during that time. I would find that hard to believe. Why the hell would you book that during Revolution? So I'm not 100% sure if Kenny will even be on the show, but I would be very surprised if he's not around to be on the Revolution card, because that's where you do Omega and Swerve. That's bigger than a TV match. But also, I don't want to see that in Australia because, first of all, it's a special episode of Collision. You've already got like 5 matches announced. I can't imagine they're just going to throw that match on that card. It has to be the Revolution match. right? You've now set up an issue between Omega and Swerve. That's a huge match. The winner of that match should get the title shot at Dynasty. Dynasty in Canada would actually make the most sense. So you do Omega and Swerve in LA. Omega wins and gets MJF at Dynasty. Where things go with Swerve, I don't know. I don't know if ultimately you turn him back heel. Right now, I mean, he's still putting in good work in the ring, but character-wise, there's not a whole lot going on there. There's something missing. Something has to change soon with Swerve, and if he's not going to start winning these matches and getting his shot, I feel like there's got to be some sort of change. It feels like he's just sort of treading water right now. For Hangman, he's going to go in there. I have, no expectation of him winning the championship back. So once he gets his shot, it'll come and go, and then whatever he moves on to, I don't know. I mean, he's 1/3 of the trios champion, so I mean, he's got a belt. So I know that's not saying much because most people on the roster, it feels like, have a belt of some kind. But he'll move on to other things that he'll be doing. But I said earlier, like, the way I describe it, like, this is Andrade in his final form. I don't think it gets any better than this. If you're Andrade right now, he's firing on all cylinders. He seems genuinely happy. I saw he made comments this past week about, this is where I want to retire. When my career is over, AEW is the place where I want to end my career, and I want to retire. Because he's bounced back and forth like so many times, it's become like a punchline. But, there aren't very many guys like him in wrestling today. I used to hear stories about that all the time years ago. Guys, have a disagreement with the promoter in one of the major companies. They jump ship to the other. Remember, look at Rick Rude. I mean, he was on both shows in the same night. Andrade may be the closest thing we have these days to someone like that. But it looks like he's really settled in now and is genuinely happy, and you could see it. You could sense it. So he's in a good spot right now. He's having killer matches. I'm sure the one with Hangman will be no different. I would not, look, I'm not going to say that I would mind seeing MJF and Andrade at Revolution. I don't see it. I think this run that he's been on, this win streak that he's been on, it ends in Australia. I just cannot imagine them doing Andrade and MJF on that show. Everything is set up for MJF and Hangman. If for no other reason, you got to remember, of the 2 singles matches that MJF and Hangman had last year, Hangman won them both. So given their history, MJF has good reason to want to go in there and finally get that elusive win over the guy that he couldn't beat last year. So there's so many different reasons to expect an MJF Hangman rematch at Revolution. It may not be the sexiest match because we've seen it before, and Andrade would be someone different. I wouldn't hate seeing it. I don't expect it. It doesn't make sense. I don't see Tony doing that match. What was the name? Someone in the chat mentioned the gaming. The gaming. Here it is. He always goes to the Tokyo Game Show. Okay, but find me the date. Find me the date for the Tokyo Game Show. Is it in mid-March? If it conflicts with Revolution, he may well not be there. But that would be pretty fucked up because he's in the middle of everything right now. He's in the middle of this whole world title picture. And that would be a pretty big show for him to miss for anything outside of an injury. Renee was backstage with the AEW Women's World Champion, Chris Statlander, who agreed not to be out there during the next match that we had coming up here. And she also apparently agreed to give Tekla a rematch next week for the World Championship. Why? I don't know, because she beat her already, but she's agreed to give her a rematch. The big difference this time is that she is going to choose the stipulation for their match. But she's not going to tell us what it is right now. She's going to make Tekla and everybody else wait for Collision. And it's probably already been revealed because they're taping Collision as we speak, I do believe. But we have to wait until Collision to find out what the stipulation is. It is AEW, of course, so I'm sure that it'll be something hardcore. The Tokyo Game Show this year is in September. Okay, well then people got their lines crossed. Then we don't have to worry about it. September 17th to September 21st. Okay. Well, then I don't know why people were so worried that he wasn't going to be available in March. False alarm. He'll be there. It's going to be Swerve and Hangman or Swerve and Omega. And then Omega, I think, is going to get his shot at Dynasty in Vancouver. That's what I'm thinking. We had the Babes of Wrath, Willow Nightingale and Harley Cameron. This was an eliminator match, not a title match, but they were facing Megabad, the team of Megan Bayne and Penelope Ford. Willow wanted Bayne to start. Ford, though, attacked from behind, which gave Megabad the advantage for about 5 seconds, as Nightingale collided them both together. Later on, Ford got launched with a pounce, which led to a Harley hot tag. Both traded standing switches until Cameron got a pump handle suplex for a 2 count. Megabad, they tried a delayed vertical suplex. Cameron, though, countered into a double DDT. And Bayne recovered. She went up top. She got cut off as Willow joined her partner in hitting a double superplex. Ford flew in with a double blockbuster from the top, which left everybody down. And there was a tilt-a-whirl DDT that spiked Megan Bayne. Willow followed with a spine buster. Bayne, though, kicked out. Ford saved her partner. Bayne launched her into Willow for an assisted cutter, and then Megabad took out Cameron with their Doomsday device, and they picked up the win here. Solid stuff, and a rare eliminator match where the challengers actually won. They beat the champs, and they did this twice on the same show. We hardly ever see these eliminator matches go any other way, and then they decided to do 2 of them. 2 upset wins on the same night here. That's why I said champs are chumps. But they are not the champions. They got the win here, but they are not the champions. They have to beat the champions again. A second time if they want to win the titles, and it is now official. That match will take place at Grand Slam, Australia. We got a video package after this on the new TNT champion, Tommaso Ciampa. After his great presentation last week, I thought he had a very good debut last week. I love the music. I just love the entrance. I love everything about what they did with him last week. And a few days later on Collision, he had a very good match with Mark Briscoe. I watched that after the Rumble Sunday morning before I sat down to do the podcast. They had a very good match. And in his first match, Ciampa wins the TNT title. So we got a backstage promo from him. He's sitting in a chair, and he's got the title. And he said, out of respect for the title, out of respect for Mark Briscoe, he is going to continue the spirit of the Open Challenge. So fear not, we have the U.S. title Open Challenge on SmackDown, and we have the TNT Open Challenge on Collision. So the tradition continues. So he invited someone to step up and challenge him for the championship on Saturday. It's going to continue right here in Las Vegas. He goes, I'm not hard to find. He said, Sylvie loves her new home and isn't going away for a very long time. He went from Goldie to Sylvie. See, I think it's a missed opportunity just to call the title Sylvia. At that point, just call it Sylvia. By the way, even though this is an open challenge, as soon as this segment was over, we got the graphic up on the screen for Collision announcing that Ciampa was defending the title in a 3-way match on Saturday against Claudio Castagnoli and Roderick Strong. So we already know what the match is. It sounds like a very good match. I don't know how we ended up with a triple threat. I know Claudio and Roddy, they've been kind of feuding lately, and somehow we ended up with a 3-way match, but that'll be happening on Collision. Then we had the national champion. So let's recap here. We went from an eliminator match for the women's tag team titles to a segment with the new TNT champion into a national title match with Ricochet defending his championship against Jack Perry. Ricochet, by the way, he made some He made some waves in the last day or two with some comments that he made, specifically about his time in WWE and about other people in WWE. I look forward to discussing this in greater depth and detail on Sunday on the Sound Off. I'm going to save it for the Sound Off because I've got everything that he wrote and tweeted. He went on a tweet storm. He was on a podcast or a radio show. I got it all. So we're going to talk all about that on the Sound Off. Now, GOA, they accompanied Ricochet during his entrance, but they went to the back when the match started. Perry hit a dive right at the bell, and then a somersault off the stage to follow up. After a break, Ricochet wanted a brainbuster on the apron. Perry, though, floated over back inside, and he swung for the fences. Ricochet gouged the eyes. Perry, though, charged. He tackled Ricochet over the top. He skinned the cat. Then he cleared the top with a tope con hilo. Back inside, Perry leapt for a DDT. Ricochet blocked it into a rolling Northern Lights. He went, there's this crazy combo here where he hit the rolling Northern Lights, then a brainbuster. Then he held on for a suplex on the apron. He held on and he hit a Death Valley driver on the floor. So that was quite the combo that he completed here. He threw Perry back inside. Ricochet connected with a springboard lariat and a running DVD for a 2 count. He grabbed the national title right in front of Rick Knox, and he slid it into the ring to run distraction. Then he tried a low blow. Perry blocked it. The thrust kick connects, but the bounce back ended with a Ricochet lariat, turned Perry inside out. So Jack Perry, he came back. He wanted the sacrifice knee. Ricochet dodged. Now they're trading schoolboy attempts. Perry eventually sank in a snare trap. And Ricochet tried to get to the ropes, and Perry just dragged him back to the center of the ring. So the Gates of Agony, they run out to the ring. You have Bishop Kaun outside. He is distracting Rick Knox, which is not hard to do. That allows Toa Leona to pull Ricochet to the ropes. Knox saw the rope break at the same time that the Young Bucks walked out. I had completely forgotten that they were supposed to be on this show. I'll get more on that in a second. But the Young Bucks, they walk out, and they smack the good Bishop in the back with a chair. Nick Jackson took out Toa Leona with a dive off the ramp. As all of this is happening, Ricochet takes the national title, and he places it in the corner over the middle turnbuckle. Places it in the corner. He dodged a diving Jack Perry, and Perry collides with the belt in the corner. And then at that point, Ricochet hit Vertigo, and he retains the championship. Tony Schiavone on commentary, he said, well, that was a tough break for Jack Perry, but at least the GOA was kept away. No, they weren't, actually. You know, I could have sworn that last week, as I was sitting here talking about the show, there was a segment, a pre-tape promo segment with the Young Bucks, where they invited any team to show up in Las Vegas this week and face them. And then when I saw them walk out here during the match, I said, oh, I forgot all about that. But apparently it's not going to be addressed. Now, I guess the workaround is, well, Collision is being taped in Vegas, and they are wrestling on Collision. But that's fucking lame. Like, nobody, when they were watching Dynamite last week, and the Young Bucks said that, was thinking, oh, that must be for Collision. So we just didn't get anything with the Young Bucks outside of this run-in here on this show. Because I was wondering last week, like, oh, okay, I wonder what team is going to step up. Maybe it's a new team they've signed. I don't know. And then we got nothing with them. As far as this match here, the in-ring was good. We got the same shit, though, in their last match, with GOA interfering and getting involved. And I have no interest in seeing them run this back again. I mean, again, the in-ring was good. It was fine. But I have no interest in seeing it again. But we are told the Young Bucks are going to face the Gates on Collision. And the winners of that will be entered into a 3-way match on Dynamite next week that will also involve the Rascals and a wild card team. And the winner of that match will then become number 1 contenders for the AEW tag team titles. They did not say when, they did not say where. I'm still left wondering what is the plan here as far as the Cope and Christian stuff? I mean, are they... I don't know. I don't know. At this point, honestly, just fucking abandon ship and just move on. I just feels like we're in this weird like stasis with the tag team titles right now. You got Stokely in his wheelchair doing the comedy gimmick, and they're throwing out these different random challengers at FTR. It looks like we're probably headed for another Young Bucks FTR match, as if we haven't had that before. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where all of this is going to end up. Now, as Excalibur was speaking, we were interrupted with a commotion in the production truck where the producers and the director, they're all being held hostage by the War Dogs. It's Gabe Kidd and Clark Connors. And they forced them to air video of them in the desert. And they were dragging Darby Allin's body in a body bag behind their car through the desert. They stop the car, they get out, they unzip the bag so that you can see Darby is inside. They cut the rope, get back in the car, and they drive back to civilization, leaving Darby Allin to expire. All by himself in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert. Again, AEW does not seem to care about the well-being of its talent. They come back to the announcers. I mean, look, we've seen Darby Allin in this show get kidnapped and left for dead in the desert. Nobody cares. Nobody seemed terribly concerned about this. Crimes were committed here. But damn it, the show must go on because we got a main event to get to, which was the world champion, the AEW world champion MJF in an eliminator match against Brody King. And they come out to the ring and we're getting ready to have this big eliminator match here. And we had loud chants for Brody of fuck ice from the fans here in Las Vegas. The look on MJF's face was priceless. So right as the bell sounds, they play Hangman's music. And out walks Hangman Adam Page. And MJF is like, what are you doing now? He's coming out to get a closer look. But this distracts MJF, who goes over to the ropes. He's jawing and bickering at Hangman. What are you doing here? You got no business being here. What he doesn't realize is that behind him is Brody King, who puts him in a sleeper. And MJF, we saw this on Monday night. We saw this with Gunther and Dragon Lee. They did the same spot here 48 hours later. Now, we've seen Brody do this before many times. He's done it to Darby Allin. I mean, it's a Brody King specialty here. But I was like, I'm watching this. I go, we're getting the same spot in two different companies on two different shows in the same week. But in this case, he puts him in the sleeper. MJF goes out instantly. He went out way too quickly on this. I'm not saying like in a realistic scenario like this, he should be in the hole for 30 seconds. But like, I'm talking like 2-3 seconds. That was it. His body goes limp. Brody King lets go. MJF falls to the floor outside. So he chokes him out. He puts him back in the ring. He hits the corner cannonball. He hits the gonzo bomb. And he pins him in 30 seconds flat. The AEW World Champion has been pinned and squashed here on Dynamite. Of course, the fans are all excited and they're cheering because they're like, holy shit. They can't believe that this just happened. And they like Brody and they hate MJF. So, that's the appropriate reaction you would expect. When the match is over, King grabs the AEW World title and he is holding it over MJF's body when all of a sudden Andrade rushes the ring and he blasts Brody with the spinning back elbow. Andrade goes over, he picks up MJF and he delivers the DM. He spikes him with the DM before Hangman drops Andrade with a buckshot lariat. Page wanted another buckshot on MJF. MJF, though, kicked him low, but Brody King recovered and he hit a second gonzo bomb on the world champion. And then he held the title up one last time and he stood tall as the show went off the air. They had to get Brody a win here to get to the match in Australia. So once they announced this as an eliminator match, you're like, okay, you got the Australia show is coming up. What else would MJF be doing on that show? If they want him to wrestle, he's going to wrestle Brody King. Brody has to win. Do you pin MJF? Do you have MJF get disqualified? Do you have some sort of non-decision and Brody gets the shot anyway? You're limited in what you can do here. The one thing I would never have expected is that the champion would be beaten so decisively and so quickly in the way that he was. To the extent that it was unpredictable, that I like. I think we need a little more unpredictability in wrestling, and unpredictability could be good. Unpredictability could be bad. As a general rule, I am not a fan of, beating champions unless you are beating them to take the title from them. And there are exceptions. There may be a great angle that they do, and it's like, okay, that was good, what they did there. But just as a general rule, I hate it. I don't like it. The champion getting squashed here, that was certainly a choice. For all I know, it was MJF's idea. I don't know. It certainly got the reaction that they were looking for. People were overjoyed and shocked in a good way. They were stunned in a good way, right, to see that. And Brody King is very popular, so people are very happy to see it. And it gets them to where they need to go. And they used Hangman coming out as the distraction that MJF can point to and say, it's the dumb Cowboys' fault why I lost that match last week. It also reinforces the idea that I talked about earlier, which is that while I would be okay if it was MJF and Andrade, it is not going to be MJF and Andrade at Revolution. The match is MJF and Hangman. Because even though it may feel like, hey, been there, done that, let's go with somebody new, Hangman is still in the world title picture. He's going to get a match. And he's going to lose. It's the one thing that MJF has not been able to do, which is, recently anyway, is beat Hangman Page. He's got to get that win. Now he's going to blame Hangman for why he lost that match and got embarrassed tonight on this show. It wasn't Andrade who came out, right? It wasn't Kenny Omega who came out. It was Hangman, because that's going to be the match at Revolution. So it all ties together. The one thing I do love about what they're doing right now, it is the best thing that they are doing on the show, which is all of the competition that is centered around the World Championship. Brody King is going to get a shot. Brody King at the end of the show tonight, holding that title up above his head, that is as close as Brody King will ever be to being the AEW World Champion. Okay, certainly this year. So I hope he enjoyed it, because he ain't winning that match in Australia, and I don't know anybody that thinks he is. He's going to lose. He got his win tonight. He's going to lose there. But you coming out of that show, you look at all of the different names. That's why I've said, like, MJF is lined up at least through the summer with different people that he can be defending that title against. Everyone is gunning for him. He has a target on his back in a way that it didn't feel like he did the first time that he was the champion. And he was doing the Adam Cole stuff and the brochachos and all that. This is different. This is where, okay, he's the guy. He's got what we want, and everybody's fighting for it. And I love that. That should be what all of these guys want to have, is what MJF has. So that's really the dominant story right now on these shows. You look at the last few weeks of TV, there is no other dominant storyline right now outside of the MJF stuff. You take that out of the equation, there's not a whole lot going on right now. In all seriousness, there really isn't. I mean, we're getting tons of matches. Story-wise, they've been very light. If it wasn't for all the world title stuff and these Eliminator matches. So that's one thing that they're doing well right now. I did like what they did at the end with all the chaos. It was very chaotic. Hangman's out there. Here comes Andrade. I like that they sent him out there to, hit a couple of moves. And then he gets taken out, but then Hangman gets taken out, but then MJF gets taken out again. So it was a very chaotic ending to the show. It'll certainly have a lot of people talking about the way they booked MJF here, but again, it gets them to where they need to go, which is the title match in Australia. And we have a full card now for that Australia show. And it should be a fun match, an actual match between MJF and Brody King. But like I said, him holding that title above his head there at the end, that's as close as he's going to get to it. Because it's going to be MJF defending that title against the Hangman at Revolution. Get ready. Hey, Martin, what's going on? What did you think of Dynamite from Las Vegas? Let's go to the poll and find out. 54.2% thumbs up for tonight's show, 21.3% thumbs in the middle, and 24.5% thumbs down with 800 votes and counting. That is, I'm trying to think how that compares to recent weeks. It's probably one of the higher scores that the show has gotten in recent weeks. Not always a very high score for these shows. All right, let's take a look at the super chats here. I don't know where we are on the likes goal. 384. What was it, 420? I think 420 was the goal. We need about 40 more likes to get to be the booker tonight. We'll see if we get there. Hey, Dried Chicken, what's going on? Thank you for the 10. Said that if AEW was a food entree, the best to describe Dynamite and Collision is like having a very delicious meal with high sodium. You can easily lose your appetite or taste buds quickly. Yeah, you don't want to have a high sodium diet. That's not a good thing. Also says everybody loves meat in pro wrestling. AEW, AEW provides lots of meat. WWE provides turkey and spam. It's a Super Bowl week. Every AEW tag team and faction is throwing a Super Bowl party. Which AEW group are you going to join for Super Bowl Sunday? Well, I will not be joining the Demand. You know, I wouldn't mind hanging out with the Hurt Syndicate. I think that could be fun. I'm certainly not hanging out with the Don Callis family. All the fucking food will be gone. There won't be anything left. There won't be any place to sit. What, are you kidding me? Johnny Burney, a good show, the best Dynamite ending in forever. The Uffman says, anyone see the ad on HBO Max? Podcasts are on Netflix. Is the sound off next? Hey, Ted Sarandos, you know, I'm not a hard man to find. Not a hard man to find. Anytime he wants to have a conversation. I think he's a little busy right now. They have a major acquisition that's going on. I don't think he's too worried about the podcasts. Dried Chicken says Andrade El Presidente. Getting that W tonight. I said the win over Swerve was the biggest win of his AEW career. And he topped it tonight. Because beating Kenny Omega, that is now the biggest win of his AEW career. No Cap says if Brody doesn't win the world title, then squashing MJF makes no sense. Actually, the opposite is correct. Brody had to beat MJF in their mind. Brody had to beat MJF in dominant fashion to prove him wrong. When he said you haven't beaten anybody elite, you don't deserve a shot at the title until and unless you beat somebody of an elite level. And he went out there and he beat the champion in 30 seconds. It fits the story. I'm not saying it's the way that I would have done it or the best story, but the story is that, okay, you want me to go out there and beat somebody credible and elite? How about you? And not only did he beat MJF, he beat him in 30 seconds. Right? So it doesn't get any more dominant than that. So that now establishes him as a threat who, in theory, right, you should look at it now and go, oh shit, okay, he's a contender now, right? I can buy into the idea that this guy could win the world title, even though you and I both know that's not going to happen. But that's exactly what they had to try to do if they wanted to create a credible challenger in Brody King. He doesn't have to win the world title for it to make sense, what they did tonight. Hey, Tuxedo, thank you for the $15. I appreciate that. Dried Chicken, I wish the Bella Twins would have joined TNA or AEW before going back to WWE. Both companies would have given them some new elements to their characters. I think that Brie probably had an in AEW if she wanted to go there. I do not need to see the Bella Twins on AEW television. Bender McSimpson fun show tonight. Lovely match with Kenny and Andrade. I always like the unique Death Riders entrance. And I look forward to a pissed off MJF. Paul Carpenter. I'm watching the Hart Brothers against the Quebecers. Have you ever noticed a whole match, Owen Hart's letting them beat up Brett the entire time? Kick the leg. Yeah, and then he got upset when Brett couldn't continue, even though he left him in there to die. And no cap. Do you think Ricochet is working everyone? It doesn't make sense pissing Fed fans off if they're not watching AEW. I mean, look, part of his shtick is to get under people's skin. The comments that he made, those are not in-character comments. And I think there's things that are said on social media sometimes that people just easily sort of wave off as, oh, he's just in character. Especially to excuse some of the stupid shit that he'll say on social media, especially like the EO Sky stuff several years ago. Not everything is in character. Not everything you can credit to just him being in character. You know, when he was on that radio show talking about his time in WWE, he was being genuine about how he felt and why he had to leave. Now, is he using it as a way to rile people up on social media? I'm sure he is. But no, there's a lot of truth in the comments that he made that he believes. You know, in his heart, this is the way that it is. This is what they did to me. This is how I feel about it. He said some stuff that I agree with. He said some other stuff that I don't. I'll talk more about it on the Sound Off on Sunday. But no, it's not, oh, he's just making all of these comments in character. That's not what this is. All right, we are at 4:07. So we will have to try again on Friday night. Hey, Ace of Master, look at this guy. 55 months of channel membership. Dried Chicken says, fair warning, AEW could be very tempted to turn the AEW World Title match of Revolution into a triple threat involving MJF, Hangman, and Andrade. They don't normally do that with their world title matches. That's a very WWE way of doing things. But you know what? If they wanted to turn it into a three-way match, that's fine. I wouldn't mind that. And Alex says, what was your reaction when The Undertaker against Brian Lee's fake Undertaker match main evented over the classic Brett versus Owen steel cage match? I mean, looking back at it now, it was very dumb. But I think Brett and Owen won the night in more ways than one. Not just because, obviously, it was the best match on the show and the best cage match I've ever seen. They got like 30, I don't know what, it was over 30 minutes. So much so that they actually went about 20 minutes over what they were supposed to go. When I say 30 minutes, it was over. I'm including everything from the match to all the post-match chaos with the family members trying to get into the cage after Owen and Anvil locked the door. It was just absolute madness. And from entrances to the very end, it was probably more like 40 minutes. And Undertaker was just on with Cody on Cody's podcast. He just talked about this. And he said that they were freaking out in the back because they just ignored their cues and they just went way past what they were supposed to be, out there for. And as a fan, I just look at that and go, thank God we didn't need to get another 10 or 15 minutes of The Undertaker and The Underfaker at SummerSlam. Sorry, Mark. I think we got the better end of it. And Viva La Terry Davis. Not a WWE night, but I'm just curious, where does Royce Keys go? SmackDown. SmackDown needs heels. SmackDown could use him as a heel on that roster that they can start building up Maybe at some point he gets, into that sort of upper main event mix on that show. But they desperately need, they desperately need a lot of things on that show, especially in the women's division, but they need heels. And if Obafemi is going to Raw, I think wherever Obafemi goes, Royce Keys goes to the opposite brand. By the way, there's no guarantee that he's even going to the main roster. He was in the Royal Rumble. It doesn't mean that he's not going to go to NXT. But I think SmackDown could use him more than NXT and more than Raw. That's where I expect him to go. And Dry Chicken says, I'll tell you how Fatu can anger Cody Rhodes by bringing multiple women on his tour bus while Brandy is at the show after Cody's match. Yeah, let's leave the tour bus out of it. We had Drew McIntyre on the tour bus. It's old at this point. Unless you're going to burn the bus down, let's leave the bus alone. All right, so we actually did hit the goal, 428. 420 was the goal, right? Let me bring the wheel up here. Yep, 420. So you got it in right at the buzzer there. We get to do some Be the Booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the Booker.
I don't know. It was close. I wasn't sure if we were going to make it, but we are at least going to get the one round. Steal the bus and do a podcast from it. How about you steal the bus and you drive it into the arena, like Austin with the beer truck that time? Drive it into the arena. They don't do anything. They don't do any cool shit like that anymore. Everything's so safe and sanitized. It's fucking boring. All right, we have the Holly Cousins, Hardcore and Crash. This is when they were super heavyweights. I enjoyed the Holly Cousins. And the Hollies are going to... Oh, man, this is going to be... Potentially, this is going to be a mess of a match here. I like it. You know, if Knobs or Sags throw one bad shot at Bob Holly, he's going to give it right back to them, and this could turn into a shoot real quick. I envision this match being very similar to the match, if you remember, with the Nasties against Max Payne and Cactus Jack. What was that? Spring Stampede 94, I think it was. Uncensored or Spring Stampede. It was one of those shows. That match could get real quick. The real life Bebop and Rocksteady. It's exactly what they are. The Nasty Boys are a real life Bebop and Rocksteady. All right. There you go, everybody. Enjoy. We have Nikita Lyons. Where the hell is she? Nikita Lyons apparently was so great, they demoted her down to Evolve. I think she's in Evolve now. Everyone thought she was going to be going up to the main roster. Instead of going up, she went down. But there she is, Nikita Lyons. I don't know who she's sitting on there in that photo. It's hard to tell. I can't tell who that is. Nikita Lyons. And Mandy Rose. I don't have high hopes for this match. Don't have high hopes for that one, but we'll try to salvage it here with our main event. We have Mr. Bob Backlund with his WWF title. Man, he only had the title for 3 days. I'm trying to think where this picture even would have been taken. He didn't have the belt long enough to be photographed with it. Mr. Backlund defending the title against Cody Rhodes with his title. You know what I just noticed? They're both wearing suits and they're both holding different versions of the WWE Championship. I am going to give that the bell. You want some real graps. Someone said real graps. There's some real graps. You get Bob Backlund in there with Dusty's kid. The only thing with Backlund is, like, when he initially turned heel in 94, like it was so great. Like the actual turn, the match he had with Brett that night, just fucking great. But then as time went on, he was doing the crazy Bob stuff. Like in the ring, it's weird. Like he got progressively worse. His matches got progressively more boring. I think he was more focused on the gimmick. And it did not make for good wrestling matches. But I have hope. Cody and Bob Backlund, that could have been a good one. Suit and tie. I was going to say, like the suit and tie, I think they're even the same color. They looked identical in those photos. Backlund was very good, though. Back in his day, he was deceptively strong. He was super strong. Dry Chicken says, the Hollies against the Nasty Boys. Me and JD doing commentary while he provides the wings. And so, well, that could be your big Super Bowl. But we could do like a halftime heat Super Bowl match. The Hollies against the Nasty Boys. There you go. The next time I'm going to be with you is Friday night. That's the first SmackDown coming out of the Royal Rumble. So I guess we'll find out if Royce Keys is on the show and what else. And look, the only thing I am looking for, most importantly, on SmackDown on Friday night is the receipt from Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre took so many strays on Monday night, he is still in critical condition in the hospital. He might not make it. He cannot allow those comments that were made by Punk and Roman to stand without some sort of rebuttal. I know he's not wrestling either one of them, but you cannot allow that to stand. So I am expecting some sort of receipt from the WWE champion on Friday night. I'd be very disappointed if we don't get one. But it should be a big night. So come on back on Friday night and we'll hang and we'll talk SmackDown on the road to WrestleMania. Yes, Drew's ears were ringing like crazy, I'm sure, on Monday night. Have I ever been to a Survivor Series live? Yes. 2011. The one where The Rock came back for the first time after 8 years or whatever it was. Teamed up with John Cena. I was at that show. I want to say we had a Mark Henry Big Show match on that show. We did. You know what? I'm almost positive that was the match where Big Show went to the top. He did a diving elbow off the top rope. He took forever to set it up. Probably he saw his life flash before his eyes, but that I remember. It's one of those things you don't forget. But yeah, that's the only... Is that the only Survivor? I think that's the only Survivor Series I've ever been to. SmackDown is not on USA Network this Friday. Oh, is it on Sci-Fi? I see. That's right. I think there were 2 SmackDowns coming up. Okay, I didn't realize it was this week and I think next week. All right, so then be aware of that. According to the chat, SmackDown starting this week is moving to Sci-Fi because there's some other shit that's going on USA. I guess with the Olympics going on, maybe it's Olympics related. So, yeah. If you don't have Sci-Fi, you may be shit out of luck. All the more reason to come and join the stream, and I'll bring you up to speed on what goes on. But yes, it's the Winter Olympics. Punk beat Alberto Del Dipshit for the WWE title at that event. Yes, that is when Howard Finkel came out and did the special introduction for Punk. I, being there in the building, did not hear Michael Cole and Jerry Lawler and all the commentators making fun of Howard Finkel. Fuck them, by the way, for doing so. But they were having some fun at his expense. I'm sure Vince McMahon was in their ear, needling them on, making fun of poor Howard. Still the best to ever do it, by the way. No matter how many new ring announcers they bring in, no matter how good they may be, they are not the Fink. So you can mock and make fun of them all you want to, you dumb Irish bastard. But Howard Finkel is still the GOAT when it comes to wrestling ring announcers and always will be. And now I'll step off my soapbox. Be well. Stay safe. I will see you on Friday night. And we will talk SmackDown. Go back and check out all the other content on the channel. There's a lot of good shit there, especially all the Rumble stuff if you missed that. And I'll see you back here on Friday night. Till then, take care, guys.